We're joined right now on RealCulture.com by Brian Peria. He is market analyst with Canfax. Welcome to Brian.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, Brian, let's talk about the cattle on feed report you released last week. What were some of your findings?
Well, we've had a very common theme all year long that our cattle on feed numbers remain pretty tight and below a year ago and well below the 5-year average as well. Placement's still coming in pretty slow. We've seen a decrease to smaller calf numbers, maybe a few more heifers staying out of the system, and it's been a very slow fall run, especially in these developments over the last few weeks with the XL foods issues. There's been a lot of producers kind of take a wait and see to marketing cattle. So, that's kept calves, at home in the background and lots are out on pasture, and we're seeing slow placement levels. And most of the feedlots have room, but there are a few that, have maintained higher inventories and actually do need to move some fat before they can actually place more cattle. So placement's still fairly moderate, even though we've been well below a year ago for quite some time now.
Now, you mentioned less heifers coming to market. Does that mean heifer retention's on the rise and we're starting to rebuild that herd? Is that an indication?
Well, it could be. Earlier in the year, that was more the thoughts to why we may not be having as many cattle going on to feed. It's been pretty moderate, though. Overall, both steers and heifers on these last few reports have both been down together. It's going to be more of a story going forward. Yearlings, and that's kind of set in place as to where those calves are going, or where those feeders are going, or whether they're going to feed or being retained. But I think this year with the calf crop, the calf run being somewhat disappointing with prices, that I think there are some guys who may be looking at this as an opportunity to have some cheaper replacement heifers. Again, a bit of a gamble, and some guys did that last year and may not be happy with the spread market this fall. But it's going to be a tough one to call necessarily, whether the negativity in the market may make these replacements look cheaper, or where guys are just going to, they've tried enough times and saying they're just going to market the heifers as feeders.
And we have ample feed around to allow people to, I guess, have a higher retention maybe they initially had planned.
Yeah, no, we're a lucky spot. Again, lots of feed around. Again, all relating to this market conditions is, cows have really slowed down as well. A lot less cows coming to market. Generally, that's been a question. Will some of these cows get retained? And I don't think it'll be big numbers. Our culling rate's been pretty tight the last couple of years. We just have to have, at least close to an 8%, just a natural cull of this herd. And cull cow prices, although they're down and lower than a year ago, they're certainly not, they're good to where we were a few years ago for sure.
Do you think this feeder run's going to amp up here as the snow starts to fly, or is this going to be one of those really sleepy feeder run years?
Yeah, well, it's funny. The yearling run was kind of like that. It was kind of a slower, sort of dragged out process. Partly numbers are just tight. A lot of the yearlings were locked up. There are still some coming to town, though. Guys were just starting to think of selling in the start of September and put it off. And, I think the calf run, we'll see some numbers ramp up. We just have to. Guys aren't all set up to, retain these calves, and they've got to move them this fall. And I think we're starting to see that this week already. Our feeder run was 30% higher than last week, and this week I think we're seeing more pre-sort sales and more special sales. But these calves are coming to town now. Prices have been holding up relatively well on the calf side. They're under a bit of pressure, obviously, but all in all, they've been impacted the least by this situation.
So when you look at your last several cattle on feed reports, are you noticing a bit of a trend or anything that sort of causes you some concern or optimism in the market?
It's hard to say. Partly we've seen a lot more bigger cattle being placed the last couple of reports. We just haven't seen calves come to town yet, so it's hard to really read into any of the from this year's calf crop what guys are going to think with their placements, whether it's heifers and steers and the number that actually go to finishing walk. But the focus has been on just the yearling run and the heavy feeders so far in basically up till this point in 2012.
So you're going to have lots of great analysis on November 13th and 14th is the Canfax Cattle Market Forum in Calgary at the Deerfoot Inn and Casino. If somebody's interested in registering, do they just go to canfax.ca?
Yeah, just go to our website, canfax.ca, and they can link right there onto the cattle forum. And yeah, for sure, at that point, we'll, it'll be good for, on my side, a lot of the main industry topics will be covered by, the grain experts and the international and global macroeconomics. So we can focus on some of the cattle cycle indicators and other, benchmarks basically for the Canadian industry, which I think will be of interest.
Okay, Brian, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Sean.